everyone. Welcome to another episode of Be Well, Be Keto. And today we have the super cute Rachel Gregory, who is a board certified nutrition specialist, athletic trainer, strength and conditioning coach, and author of the 21-Day Ketogenic Diet Weight Loss Challenge book. She received her master's degree in nutrition and exercise physiology from James Madison University and bachelor's degree in sports medicine from the University of Miami. She's an absolute doll. I totally enjoyed our chit chat, and interesting enough, her publication that came out in the International Journal of Sports and Exercise Medicine, where she completed the first ever human clinical trial looking at the effects of the ketogenic diet in CrossFit athletes. So let's go and say hi to Rachel.
Welcome to the Be Well, Be Keto podcast, where we showcase ordinary people who have achieved extraordinary results. Your host is the high-energy girl, Tracy Gluhite.
Give a woman a fish, feed her for a day. Teach a woman to fish, feed her for a lifetime. Teach a woman to fish, end world hunger. Have you ever wanted to help people improve their health journey? Have you thought about coaching people with a keto lifestyle? Would you like to become an integrative health coach? Well, the Institute for Integrative Nutrition, or IIN as we call it, is the largest nutrition school in the country. And in 2011, I graduated from their program and became a health coach. It was completely awesome. We learned over 100 different dietary theories and talk about craziness and confusion. My wish for you is that we can lock arms and create a tribe of health coaches all around the country, all around the world to spread the keto message. If this resonates with you and you would like to look into this option deeper, please go to my blog at highenergygirl.com and click on the link to the right of the homepage. Here you can grab the curriculum guide and see if it inspires you. Since I care so much about my listeners, I negotiated the very best tuition rate for you at IIN. Either you can contact them directly and give them my name, or I will introduce you to a counselor so you can decide if this is a good fit for you and your career goals. Let me know how I can support you in this coaching career opportunity. Have you joined the Facebook group yet? I have a new Facebook group called High Energy Girls, and that is pretty much where I'm hanging out these days, and I would love to have you a part of the group. So head on over to High Energy Girls on Facebook. So hey, Rachel, thanks so much for coming on the show today.
Thanks for having me.
Well, I am a big fan, and I know that you are killing it, and so... Yeah, pun intended. So for the listeners that don't know you yet, why don't you tell us a little bit about you?
Sure. So my name's Rachel Gregory, and I am also known as Killin' It Keto. That's the name of my business and my Instagram and social media and all of that. And I am originally from New York. I grew up in Manhattan, and I went to undergrad at the University of Miami, where I got my degree in sports medicine. And then I went on to grad school and got my master's degree in nutrition and exercise physiology. And that's where I found the ketogenic diet and became pretty obsessed with it and just, researching all about it. And this was about 4.5 years ago. And I ended up doing my master's thesis on the ketogenic diet in non-elite CrossFit athletes. So we did a 6-week human clinical trial looking at the effects of implementing a ketogenic diet in a non-elite CrossFit population. And so the study was very, very successful and ended up being published. And after I graduated, I went on and presented the results at a few different conferences and kind of got more into the keto space. And yeah, the rest is history, I guess. I've been growing my own business as a nutritionist and a strength conditioning coach. And yeah.
And where are you located now?
And so now I'm in San Diego, actually. I live in San Diego.
Oh, okay. So I'm in Northern California.
Oh, where at?
Bay Area. So San Jose, like I'm about a half an hour south of San Jose on a little farm.
Oh, nice. I've
Yeah.
been there. I've been to San Jose before. It's nice there.
Yeah, I was born and raised. I was born and raised in San Jose, and then I got married there, and then my husband and I relocated into a city called Morgan Hill. Have you heard of it?
I haven't heard of Morgan Hill, no.
What about Gilroy? Garlic.
I'm
Think
still
garlic.
I'm still new to California. Honestly, I moved to San Diego about I guess it's been almost 2 years now. But before that, I was on the East Coast, so I'm still learning
Yeah.
learning California.
Well, San Diego is amazing. I mean, do you love it there or what?
Yeah, it's amazing. There's the weather, the people, everything. It's awesome.
Yeah, it's got a great vibration down there.
Yeah.
So, what brought you to San Diego?
So actually, kind of just was like on a whim when I graduated from grad school, I was looking for different jobs and I ended up working as a nutrition scientist for a supplement company in Florida. I was living in West Palm Beach, Florida. And after working there for about a year, I realized that it really wasn't something that was exciting me. Like it wasn't something that I wanted to be doing for a long period of time. I was mostly just working with a company that was big into bodybuilding, and their supplements were not like keto specific or anything like that, but it was just kind of the whole spectrum. And I was formulating different supplements and a bunch of different things, but it wasn't exciting me. So my roommate actually she was like, well, why don't we, because she could move with her job. She works for a big accounting firm, and she was like, I want to move to the West Coast. Like, I want to experience it. And at that point, I was just kind of like, well, I knew that I was probably going to step away from that job anyway. So we kind of just said, we packed up our bags and we're like, let's just go. And yeah, that we drove across country, and I came out here thinking that I was probably going to find another full-time job as a nutritionist somewhere, or some type of exercise, a job that, involved exercise and nutrition together. And that I didn't end up finding anything that I was really interested in. So I decided to just continue to pursue my own nutrition consulting business, and it's grown. And I ended up writing a book, and it's been amazing. So.
That's fantastic. I love it. So so let's back up. I want to go way back to when you were getting your master's. You're in grad school. And how did you stumble upon the ketogenic diet?
Yeah, so I went to James Madison University for got my master's in nutrition, exercise physiology, and it was a 2-year program, and we had to come up with a subject that we were going to do our thesis study on, because you had to do a thesis to graduate from the program. And a lot of my classmates were doing survey-based studies that were more related to just different aspects of nutrition in general. And I knew that that's something that wasn't like going to excite me because this was a 2-year project. So it was something that my advisor told me, you have to find something that you haven't, that you don't know much about, and something that will excite you and, make you want to work on it for 2 years. And so I knew that a survey-based study wasn't really my thing, wasn't something that would excite me. So I decided to pursue doing a human clinical trial. And basically I had to find a subject that included both nutrition and exercise. So at that time, I joined a local CrossFit gym. When I got to grad school, I actually started doing CrossFit just for fun, just to get a good workout in. I had previously done triathlons as a collegiate athlete when I went to University of Miami, and then when I got to grad school, I just didn't have time to train for triathlons and wanted something new. So I tried out CrossFit, did it for a few weeks, really loved the community. And just kept going back. And so when it came time to think about the study, I knew that I had a population of people who would be interested. And so the CrossFit was my population for the exercise portion of it. And then the next step was to go look for a nutritional intervention that I could implement into this exercise population, with the goal being decreasing body fat and weight while maintaining lean body mass or muscle mass at the same time without compromising performance to a degree. And so at first I thought that I was going to do something like a paleo, because paleo was very popular at that time, and especially in the CrossFit community, it was getting more popular. But I had already, researched a ton about paleo, and there wasn't really something that I could, what's the word? There wasn't really like a specific measurement that I could use that was different or more or intriguing. And so I just kind of kept searching for different nutritional interventions, and I came across the ketogenic diet. And this was, like I said, this was 4.5 years ago. So, it was not what it is today at all. Like, it was just surfacing. And I came across Jimmy Moore's book, Keto Clarity, and read it in a day. And I was just so intrigued by everything, with the one thing being that you could actually measure this substance and see if someone is adhering to the protocol without, having them fill out. We did all this, but I'm saying, in terms of finding something that's actually like a concrete measurement that you can actually see, oh yes, they are following a diet, or no, they're not. And that would be to measure ketones. Mm-hmm. And so that was the main thing that kind of popped into my head. It was like, wow, I can actually like make sure that these people are adhering to this for the next 6 weeks, by measuring their ketones. And that's how I found it.
And how often did you have them measure it?
So at this point, we didn't actually have the funding to do blood ketones, but we did have a machine in our lab that actually, we could measure the urine ketones using the strips, but we had a machine that we put the urine strips into, and it would spit out a number. So instead of just having like the dark purple or anything like that, it would actually give us a number. But the main thing was just to see that they were producing ketones. And obviously we know that in the beginning, the urine strips are a good way to see if your body is producing ketones. And then after time, after a few months, they kind of trickle off. For most people, it seems that the urine strips become less accurate and you have to move to blood. But like I said, we didn't have the funding for the blood. But either way, it was still a good measurement. And so we actually measured every week for the actual study went on for 6 weeks. But there was like pre-study protocols and post-study protocols, of course. But the urine ketones were measured every Friday. I actually spent my Friday nights measuring urine.
Yay! You party girl.
Yeah, it was great. We had like a refrigerator in the gym, and we had like the pee cups. And so every Friday we actually had over 30 participants. So every Friday they had the entire day to come in and pee in the cup, put it in the refrigerator, and then at the end of the day I would go pick up all the samples, bring them back to the lab, and do the measurements. And it was fun.
Oh, that's hilarious. So did you do the diet with them?
So I actually kind of tested the diet out myself before even implementing, the study even started. Because if with studies like this, there is like a pre-study period where like you have to do the research first. You have to dive into the literature, see what's been done, and kind of write your literature review and all of that. And so during that period, when I knew that I was going to use this protocol, I started experimenting with the diet myself. I had never followed like a ketogenic diet. I followed more of like the paleo approach. So it wasn't that hard of a transition, but I definitely made lots of mistakes in terms of, I didn't pay attention to my electrolytes when I first started. So I knew that was something that I had to address going into the study, and make sure that I told all of the participants to, focus on their electrolytes and make sure that they are, hydrating and balancing all of that out, balancing all of that out and getting, enough salt and all of that stuff. And then another thing was, calorie wise, like not dropping the calories so low, especially when they first start off, just because they are doing a high intensity sport. And yes, the goal was body recomposition to a degree. But at the same time, like for myself, when I was doing it, I noticed that when I first started, like I had dropped the calories like way too low to start off. So I just was not feeling great. So just little things that I tested on kind of myself and little tips and tricks that I was able to put into the guide when I gave it to them to start the study. So.
Okay. So why did you drop your calories way so low?
It wasn't that I like did it on purpose. I think that I was one of those people who was actually just very had that very, appetite suppressant effect of the ketones. So I was on a really busy schedule, and I think, like looking back at the time, during those first few weeks, I wasn't tracking, macros or anything like that. I was just making sure, the only thing that I was tracking was making sure that my carbs were under 50 grams of total carbs. And that's actually what I implemented in this study. So in this study, the only thing that the participants had to track, although some of them did end up tracking their, macros using MyFitnessPal, but the only main thing that they had to pay attention to was keeping their total carbs under 50 grams. But yeah, so I just, inadvertently, I think I was just one of those people who got really affected by the appetite suppressant effect of the fat and the ketones. And so I just ended up not eating enough to support my activity level at that time.
So then what'd you do? Did you just add more calories or?
Yeah, I mean, it was honestly like a phase, probably a 2-month phase that I was just experimenting with different things. And again, I was still learning. Like I had no idea like what I know now, in terms of everything like electrolytes and just making sure I'm getting enough protein, especially, and with the performance that I was doing. And so that's another thing, like with this study, protein wasn't a limit. It was, like I said, it was just carbs. And this was, like I said, 4 years ago. So I think we've had a period of time. Like if you've been kind of in the keto space since it really started to blow up, there was like this period of time where everybody was, fearing protein, and there was the whole gluconeogenesis thing. And I feel like we've kind of gotten away from that now. And obviously to some degree, protein has to be limited depending on what your goals are for the diet. So if you're trying to, follow this for therapeutic reasons, then maybe, your protein has to be monitored very strictly in terms of, upping your ketones to a degree. If you're trying to treat a certain disease, or if you're maybe severely insulin resistant or something like that. But yeah, I totally forgot your question because I'm rambling on. I'm sorry.
That's okay. I'm just listening. I was asking what you did when you realized that your calories were too low. Like, did you just bump them up, or how'd you feel better? Because like I work out, I'm a big weightlifter now. And so I'm just curious as to, how you felt and what you did and what you added to, make up the difference. So did you add more protein, it sounds like?
Yeah. I added more protein, and then I did start to, as I got further into researching and even, past the study and all of that, I started implementing different protocols to experiment with myself. So in terms of like a targeted approach and cyclical approaches. And so I've, done all of those. And some things I've felt better, some things, felt worse. And it kind of really just depends on, what my goal is at a specific period of time. So, yeah.
So what health benefits did you realize after now you've been on keto for a while? What have you noticed in your own body?
Sure. So the main reason why I would say I probably, stuck with keto past, grad school and kind of adopted it as a lifestyle was the mental benefits of it. So like the mental clarity I have and I've had since then, and just the focus and the amount of productivity I have with my work during the day when I know that I'm, either in a state of ketosis or have some ketones circulating throughout, like I can just tell in terms of brain function and mental clarity. And then also recovery wise, in terms of like inflammation and stuff, I actually, I had in college when I was doing triathlons, I had something called exertional compartment syndrome in my legs. Chronic exertional compartment syndrome. Have you ever heard of that?
No.
So it's basically, they don't really know exactly what causes it, but it's a combination of, they say, genetics and overtraining, and other things that go into it. But it's when I was training for a half Ironman, I think the main thing is that I actually just was overtrained, and this was before. This was before I even, implemented, and this is before I even knew about keto or anything like that. I was, just following an average American slash transitioning into paleo diet. But I overtrained and I ended up getting this, not disease, but chronic exertional compartment syndrome, where it's basically the muscles in your lower legs, like in your calves, and your lower legs they get too big too fast. And so the fascia that surrounds your muscle doesn't stretch to that degree. Yeah. And so what happens is it starts to, because the fascia doesn't stretch, your muscles start to compress your nerves in your lower legs. Yeah, and so I'm sure a lot of people have heard of acute compartment syndrome. So there are two different things. So acute compartment syndrome is what you see, in car accidents, or where someone's like their leg gets crushed and you just see it completely blow up, and they have to go in and like cut the leg in half, basically, because they have to cut the fascia to let the pressure release. So that's like acute compartment syndrome. You see that, when you're watching a TV show, and like Grey's Anatomy, that's been on there a bunch of times. But the chronic version is where the pressure builds up kind of over time, and you start to get numbness and tingling because your nerves are being compressed. And then also the way I noticed it is because when I was training and I was running, I started to get something called drop foot. So my foot, like I couldn't dorsiflex or, lift up my foot as I was running, and it was due to the compression on my nerves. So yeah, I had to get surgery. I had a bilateral fasciotomy where they basically just went in and cut the fascia in all 4 compartments of both my lower legs. And so there's a whole recovery process to that. And so back to your question about what I noticed with going keto is that when I was doing different things with like CrossFit, there's a lot of jump ropes and box jumps and a lot of different jumping activities. And so jumping would really, kind of that was like the one thing that aggravated my legs after having that surgery and everything. And so I noticed when I went keto, and I mean, it didn't happen right away, but I did notice that I had a little bit better recovery with those things. So like I wasn't getting as much, tingling in my legs as I was jumping, and it just felt a little bit better. So yeah, I would say the mental benefits, and then also the recovery, and then also just everything that I've learned over the years in terms of inflammation and the different diseases and research that's coming out with implementing keto in those. And so it's just something that, has just kind of stuck with me.
Yeah, for sure. And God, that's crazy that I never heard of what you were just explaining, but it makes sense. It's like this balloon in your body, and the fascia is like the wall that's holding it in. And it just, I mean, I can see how that muscle gets stuck. Are you still doing CrossFit?
So I did CrossFit for many years. I wasn't like an elite, CrossFit athlete. I was just kind of doing it for fun and liked the environment. But about probably 6 or 8 months ago, I kind of took a break. I had a little bit of a back injury, and it just wasn't really healing. And I knew that I needed to just, give myself a break. And so I ended up taking a break from CrossFit, and I went back to like the Globo gym and started doing my own resistance training, just, taking a break from the high intensity stuff. And so that's what I've been doing for the past probably 6 months, just building strength back up and kind of recovering from my back injury.
Oh gosh, I hate injuries. That's one reason why I hurt myself doing CrossFit. I only did it for a very short time, but it's just the speed at which they do the stuff, as many rounds as possible, right? So you're type A, like we probably both are, you're just going crazy. You're going so fast. But now when I train and when I when I teach, it's like I focus on the slow movements and they're lifting half the weight basically, and they're shaking like crazy. And I know it's effective because they go till failure oftentimes. So
yeah,
but it's slow and controlled. So I hear you with that. So let's talk about the results of your study.
Sure. So do you want me to just give you a quick rundown?
Whatever you want, girl. It's your study. I don't even know what else to ask you as far as that goes.
Okay. I'll just kind of go through it as quickly as possible. I know I ramble on a lot, so feel free to interrupt me. So it was a 6-week study, and we did pre and post measurements. And so the study was a 6-week study looking at the effects of implementing a low carbohydrate ketogenic diet in non-elite CrossFit athletes. And when I say non-elite, I say this because I've gotten a lot of pushback on implementing a ketogenic diet in CrossFit athletes. And I mean, for good reason. And so that's why I always say that these are non-elite CrossFit athletes. And a lot of people don't realize that if you go into an average CrossFit gym, like any gym, 90% of the people in that gym are going to be your average Joe, just in there looking to get a good workout in. They're not looking to go to the CrossFit games. Maybe they're a little bit overweight. They're just trying to, hang out with people, have fun, do a workout, get that community vibe. And then the other 10% are your, elite athletes who are looking to push their performance, go to the CrossFit games, go to regionals, all that stuff. So that's just something that I always preface, because a lot of people who've never done CrossFit before, which is a lot of people, they don't know that. So it was not only CrossFit athletes, your average Joe, who's just people who are looking to lose a little bit of body fat, lose a little weight, while also, working out. It was 4 days per week of CrossFit. That's what the average amount that we had them do for the 6 weeks. And so what we did in the pre-testing period, pre and post testing, we did DEXA scans for everybody. So we had 32 participants, and we divided them randomly into 2 groups. So the first group, the one group was following just your average American diet. So they were told to just continue doing what they were doing. And most of them were following just your normal diet. And then the other half of the group was told to implement a ketogenic diet. And so I gave them all guidelines to do this. There wasn't much with studies like this. You're not supposed to coach them, do one-on-one coaching, because you could maybe coach one person more than the other, and that could skew the results. So all the participants got the same exact guide and were told to do the same exact thing. And so we did, for pre-testing, we did DEXA scans on everyone to look at their body composition. We did pre-weight. We did pre-testing in terms of performance. So we did a benchmark CrossFit workout. And we, sorry, just got distracted.
That's
we
okay.
did a benchmark CrossFit workout. And so we did all of those pre, and then we did those post as well to see what would happen with the results. And so over 6 weeks, the ketogenic diet group was able to decrease their body fat percentage and their weight significantly compared to the non-ketogenic group, while at the same time increasing their performance to the same degree as the non-ketogenic group, and maintaining their muscle mass, lean body mass, throughout that time as well. So those were the main results.
Do you have a cute little graph or something that we can show that on the show notes page so people can actually visualize that?
Yeah, so the study is published in the International Journal of Sports and Exercise Medicine, and so I can send you the link for that.
Perfect.
And that is if you just go to that link, it's on the website, and you can actually download the PDF of the entire manuscript for the study, and there's all the graphs and charts and all that stuff is right there.
So how did the people who were the non-ketogenic athletes feel when they saw the results from their counterparts?
So I think that they were just intrigued, and I know that so one of the premises was also that because, you know, when I first introduced this to the CrossFit community in this particular gym, what I did is had like a little seminar, and I just said, would anybody be interested in like who's interested in, you know, following specific nutritional intervention? And I didn't tell them what it is until they were actually enrolled in it. And so half the everybody was everybody wanted to be involved in it, obviously, and there was over 30 participants. But obviously only half of that population was able to follow the keto diet. And so the premise was that after the 6 weeks of the actual study was over, that we would do like a reverse 6 weeks, not part of the study, but for the people who didn't get to go through the keto diet. So a lot of people saw the results of those 15 participants, and they were like, oh, I want to try this. So they, you know, I coached them. This was like after the study was over, but I, you know, brought them through it, and a lot of people had good results with that. And so some people stuck with it. Some people, you know, they saw great results and they continued with the lifestyle. Other people started implementing a little bit more carbs. And those are more the people who were actually doing, you know, CrossFit more for performance than for body composition. Like they were really looking to improve their performance. And yeah.
Wow, that's cool. Because now during the study, did Group A know that Group B was doing something different, or vice versa? Were they able to talk about it?
So it was like we told them to not talk about it as much as possible, just because that's like something that can, like with any study, you don't want people to be talking about their results while it's happening. But there's probably obviously some like chit chat here and there. But the main thing is that we made sure that the people, the reason why we tested ketones in everybody is because we wanted to make sure that for some reason, like maybe someone in the control group was getting intrigued and wanted to follow the keto diet, and so they started doing that. But so we made sure that like every week that the people who were in the ketogenic diet group were producing ketones, and we made sure that the people who were in the control group were not producing ketones throughout the study.
That is hilarious. I love that. Well, the reason I think this is so interesting is like so I'm the only one in my whole family that's keto, and my husband and my youngest son are both my middle son too. I mean, everybody's pretty athletic, but they think I'm crazy, and they think you need carbs. And I'm 53, and I'm getting stronger and stronger every week, and, you know, making gains in the gym, and they think I'm crazy. So that's why I asked so many questions about this, because I find it so intriguing. And even last night, my husband and I were having a discussion. He goes, he's reading a book called Bio Diet that one of my guests wrote, and sent me a copy of it. And I said, read this book. You know, I thought maybe all the science would convince him. And he's like, it says you can't have beans. I'm like, I know. So he just was like, I can't do that. I'm like, whatever. I mean, I've been keto for probably about 3 years now. Mm-hmm. And, you know, I really like it, and I just can't convince them. And my youngest son's like, I'm not going to be able to get bigger and stronger if I'm, you know, doing that. And he's like, no way, Mom, and whatever.
You should, have you interviewed Robert Sykes ever, Keto Savage?
Yeah, and Luis Villasenor from Keto Gains. And, you know, I've interviewed Danny Vega, and, you know, I've interviewed all these really cool people, and he just won't budge on it. So whatever.
Yeah. I mean, I think a lot of people, I mean, there's a lot of misinformation out there, and there's a lot of, just dogmas and stuff like that are just never probably going to go away. So
yeah, I believe that. My focus is on helping women that are like over 40, you know, that have basically, they're going down a trajectory that's not going to let them age in health, but how to help them reverse it, you know, do a 180 and age in strength. Because both of my parents have been, you know, sick and had all kinds of different crap happening to them, and it's getting worse and worse and worse. And I know that I have bad genes, but I recognize what they've been doing a long time ago, and have chosen a different lifestyle than what they have. And proving that genes don't matter, that you can, fight it and just choose a different pattern and a different lifestyle and have different results.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. I actually put my parents on it like when I started doing it, they're always intrigued by like what I'm doing. So I actually got them to I actually started. So the book that I wrote it's called the 21-Day Ketogenic Diet Weight Loss Challenge, and that actually came out of my online challenge, which was the first thing that I did with my business. Is I did like a 21-day keto challenge with a ton of people from the local CrossFit gym that I was at that point, and then also like friends and family and just everybody. And everybody got together and kind of did this for 21 days, and so it ended up becoming a challenge that I had on my website, and then it turned into a book. But actually, my parents initially joined, and they started doing it, and they've been following it for ever since then, so probably the past 2.5, 3 years.
Oh, cool. Well, how old are you, Rachel?
I am 27. I turned 27 a few days ago, actually. So.
Okay, so my oldest son is 26. I must be about as old as your mom.
Yeah, probably. What you said, yeah.
Were you born in 93?
92.
92. Okay, so Marco was born in 93. So, and I'm 53.
Yeah, you're a little younger. My parents are in their 60s.
Okay, yeah, my husband's 60. So how funny. I think that's awesome that they're being open-minded. And I love it when people are like that, because I feel truly that you never know how your body's going to respond to something until you try it.
Oh, yeah, 100%.
So what does a day in your diet look like?
So I actually, like I said, I go like the past, 3 or so years, I've gone through periods of experimenting with different things. So I'm always doing different experiments on myself and trying out different things and going through phases. And currently at this phase of where I am, I'm taking more of a cyclical type keto approach, just because I am getting a little bit more intense in the gym, and I've found that implementing a few carbs in terms of what I'm trying to do with my body composition, I've had some good results from that, and I'm actually putting what I've been doing for the past 4 months into a Keto for Women program that is launching in July. But it's more of an approach where maybe if you're someone who's been doing keto for a while, specifically women, and you're kind of at like a stall or a plateau, and I've noticed this with a lot of my clients that come to me. It's women who have are in their 20s to 40s, maybe a little bit later, and they've been doing keto for a while and they saw great results, but they've lost a lot of weight, and then they're at this point where it's kind of that last 10 to 15 pounds or I'm just using that as a number, or that they just are stuck at, or they're really just looking to see some different body composition changes in terms of losing a little bit more fat, building a little bit more muscle, and they just haven't had success with doing strict keto with that. And so I've found kind of this formula that I've kind of been implementing for myself and a few of my other clients, and over the past 5 to 6 months. And I've seen really good results. So right now, what I'm currently doing is my average day during the week is following a keto, approach, under 50 grams of total carbs, usually maybe a little bit more total carbs. And it's mostly just whole foods. Like I usually during the week, I'll have just coffee with some, I have kind of like your bulletproof coffee, but not like crazy. I just noticed that I feel better with that in terms of my mental clarity during the week, and especially in the morning. I get most of my hard work done in the morning, and if I'm in a fasted state with maybe a little bit of fat in my coffee, that's where I feel the best in terms of brain function. And then I either I'll work out, depending on what my workout is for the day. I work out during lunch, and sometimes I'll eat before, sometimes I won't. Kind of just depends how I feel during the day. And then afterwards, it's mostly just like proteins, vegetables, avocados, your typical basic keto foods. And then on weekends, I implement a little bit more carbs in terms of like sweet potatoes and squash and stuff like that. And then I do some other things that are specific to like the program that I'm actually building out and following. But yeah, so right now it's more of a cyclical approach. But like I said, I've experimented with lots of other things in the past in terms of like a target approach, carnivore approach, basic keto, very, very low carb keto. So like under 10 grams of total carbs versus, tracking 50 grams of net carbs. And so I've kind of just gone all over the place testing different things.
And what do you like the best so far?
Honestly, I think it changes. So it really depends on like what my goal is for that particular time. And I think that everybody kind of needs to look at it that way as well. Like we aren't stagnant. Like our bodies are always changing and adjusting. And so I think over time things change for people. And that's something that people don't really like, kind of understand or realize. So I think like, I can't really say like what I've liked the best just because I've had different goals at those period of time. So for example, right now, I do enjoy what I'm doing now because I've seen a little bit more strength gains actually in terms of doing a little bit of a higher carb approach on strategically on the weekends and then going in and doing like a heavy leg day on Monday. So I have seen a little bit of difference in that. I'm not sure if it's just mental, or it is actually, physiological. So that's something that I'm still kind of playing around with. But in general, I just, I always go back to just a ketogenic approach in terms of like keeping my carbs low, and it's kind of just ingrained in me now. Once you do something for a while, it becomes a habit. And so, yeah. And I always, like right now, I take like I always advocate for a whole foods approach. So like as close to nature as possible, you should be eating, like 90% of the time, consume foods that come from nature. They don't have a nutrition label. And then the other 10% of the time can be, more of like a realistic, real life, implementing maybe some keto treats here and there, or even, a regular treat here and there. So just taking kind of a realistic approach to that. And obviously it depends on the person. It depends on where you're coming from, what your goals are and all of that for sure.
Well, and I like what you just said because it is a lifestyle. And not to have that deprivation mentality. Like, a lot of people, they're on this diet and they're so strict, and then they fall off the wagon, the proverbial wagon, and then they, snowball down and they fall all the way off, and then they just say, oh, well, whatever, who cares, I already screwed up, So that to me is when people have that deprivation mindset. But what you just said is when you adopt it as a new lifestyle approach, then you can allow yourself to have a non-keto treat once in a while and not feel like, oh boy, I just blew it, I guess I should quit.
Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. And I think that's something that a lot of, and I actually went through this myself, taking a strict ketogenic approach. A lot of people have, they've been strict for so long and it becomes, see great results, but then there can be this time where there's like a carb phobia, how we went through the whole period of time of fat phobia, which I think has finally, gone away with people realizing that, fat is not bad for you. It's not what causes heart disease. Obviously, if you're having good fats, you're not eating like processed factory made vegetable fats. But I think that's been going away. And so I think some things that people deal with now some people who have been keto, quote unquote keto for a while, can fall into like the carb phobia, where they do feel like they actually fear consuming carbohydrates because they feel like they can't, where some people can't. Some people who are following keto for specific reasons in terms of, like we said, therapeutic wise, if they have to have a certain ketone level to help prevent a disease or manage a disease, or if they're, severe type type 2 diabetic or type 1 diabetic or whatever. So it's all this is all in context. Like we have to take into account like what like the individual person and what their background is and all of that. But in general, I just think that there has been a little bit of carb phobia surfacing with some people, and especially like with myself that I've gone through and with some of my clients. And so that's something that is that I'm addressing, especially in my Keto for Women program that I'm launching soon. So.
Oh, good. And then like Leanne Vogel always, I had her on the show and I asked her, because I'm postmenopausal, and I said, because she was talking about all the cycle stuff and the carb ups and the cycle stuff, and I asked her, well, what about me? Like, I'm postmenopausal. She goes, oh yeah, you don't get any carb ups. I'm like, thanks. Yeah. I take them anyways, Leanne.
Yeah. And I think it depends too. And I've gone, like, I go into a little bit of the cycle part of it as well. A lot of people that I've worked with, though, and even myself, like, have had irregular cycles for a long time, and they've gone keto and they've regulated them, or they've gone keto and they've regulated them, and then they kind of become irregular again. And so there's just all different, kind of things to look at when it comes to that type of thing, and looking at the individual and all of that. So
yeah, and that's important, because we are all bio individuals, and some people cannot thrive on a keto diet, and that's okay. I think that many people can, which I think is important. So one more question for you that's really important to me is, tell me about your strength and conditioning coaching. What are you doing with that?
Yeah, so like I said, I got my undergrad degree in sports medicine and athletic training. So I thought, when I went to college, I thought I wanted to be an athletic trainer for the rest of my life, as like, treating athletes. And some people don't really know what athletic trainers are. So do you know what an athletic trainer is?
Well, my guess, if I was just to guess, it is when you're working with a sports team to make sure that they're fit and healthy and, like help them with injury prevention or treatment. Exactly.
Yeah. So the people who are working with like the team doc, and yeah, they're with the team, and you, exactly what you said, injury prevention, rehab, everything. And so I did that in my undergrad, and I loved it. And then I went into grad school, and I actually worked as an athletic trainer while I was getting my master's degree, which was nice because I worked as a graduate assistant. But during that time, I realized that I really was more interested in the nutrition side of things, and also in like the actual exercise and strength and conditioning side of things more than I was in the athletic training sports injury part of it. Like, I was still interested in it, but I knew that nutrition was more of my passion. And so that's why I pursued nutrition more after grad school. And so then I also just got a little bit more into strength and conditioning in terms of just exercise in general. And I got my CSCS, Certified Strength Conditioning Specialist certification. Basically started, putting together programs for people, working with people in person and online, and helping them implement, nutrition as well as different exercise protocols. And so that's what I kind of do now. Like, my online business is nutrition programs as well as exercise programs.
Okay, cool. And where did you get your nutrition degree?
So I got my master's in nutrition at James Madison University, and then I got my board certification afterwards. So I'm a certified nutrition specialist, which is basically there are a few there's a lot of nutrition degrees out there, just as there are like personal training degrees and strength and conditioning degrees, but those degrees for nutrition aren't necessarily licensed. So the only ones that would be like licensed nutritionists would be, or dietitians would be, like a registered dietitian, and then the CNS, which is a certified nutrition specialist, and then one other one, I forgot the name of it, but those would be like the licensed, and you have to go through a board certification process where you have to do 1,000 clinical hours take an exam. You have to have a master's degree or higher in nutrition to be able to even sit for that exam. So that's just something that a lot of people, they think that registered dietitians are the only ones who, have that higher licensed degree, but there are a few other nutrition licensures, I guess you could say. And so the CNS is one of those.
Okay, got it. Yeah, that's good. Awesome. So what's next for you? And is your book out, or is it coming out, or?
Yeah, my book's out. It came out in September, so it's been out for, we're already in June almost, so almost a year. It's been really successful, and now I'm actually focusing on my online business. So I actually just relaunched my entire online business to include more video courses and programs. And so I have like a membership site now that has different 12-week nutritional courses that are all video based and one-on-one coaching type things with both nutrition and exercise programs. So that's what I'm focusing on now. And like I said, that Keto for Women program is going to be another program that will be on that platform, and that will be launching towards the end of July, I believe.
Oh, cool. Awesome. And where can people find you, girl? You're all over the place.
So most people know me as Killing It Keto, like I said. There's no G, it's just Killing It Keto. That actually came out of my Instagram name that I just created years ago just for fun, and it actually just turned into like my brand. So yeah, I'm Killing It Keto on everywhere, killingitketo.com, on Instagram, Facebook, all those places.
Where do you spend the most time?
Probably Instagram.
Okay.
Instagram and Facebook, yeah.
Okay, awesome. Well, my dear, is there any wisdom that you would leave the listeners with today?
Ooh, that's a hard question. I would say just to remember that, like we talked about, we're always, our bodies are always changing, always adjusting. Something that maybe worked a year ago might need to be, switched up and changed up now, depending on what your goals are. Obviously, all in the context of a healthy, whole foods, in my opinion, ketogenic lifestyle approach. But yeah, just to always remember that things are changing, that you're adapting to different things, and everybody is their own individual, and something that works for one person may not work for the other. And so we always have to keep that in the back of our mind.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And like, I love what you just said, that your body changes over time. A friend of mine's like, oh, will you test my hormones for me? I'm like, yeah, I will, but I want you to realize that they do change all the time. So I can test them and see what they are today.
Yeah.
So, but that's good that you said that. And our goals and everything adapts. I also think that our bodies get used to one thing and know what's going to come, and sometimes holds on to things, and it just needs a little kick in the butt to change things up so that we can, continue on our healing journey.
Exactly. 100% agree.
Awesome, possum. Well, thank you, girl, for coming on today, Rachel. You are just so cute and adorable, and I love that you're young because you have so much to give in your years to come. Okay, that was really fun. She's an absolute doll, and it's so awesome to see how great results people can have with the ketogenic diet from the athletic point of view. And I know how it is because that's what I love to do, is working out, and it has totally not impaired my performance, but I think it has enhanced it because at 53, I'm getting older, stronger, and healthier and happier. So it's really good. So I hope you enjoyed the show, and please head on over to the show notes page at bewellbeketo.com. Make it a great day, everyone. This podcast contains the opinion and thoughts of its host and guests. It is intended to provide helpful and informative material on the subjects covered. All statements made on the podcast have not been evaluated by the FDA and are not intended to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent disease. If the listener requires professional assistance or advice, please contact your personal medical doctor. Both host and guest specifically disclaim any responsibility for any liability, loss, or risk, personal or otherwise, which is incurred as a consequence directly or indirectly of the use and application of any of the contents of these episodes. Like I said, this is my opinion, and I could be wrong.